Hi there, good evening. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. You're watching Spotlight. Ending 2.5 months of tensions on the Doklam border. India and China end their standoff as both sides mutually decide to disengage. The development is a clear vindication of Prime Minister Modi's diplomacy and a huge diplomatic win for his government as it continued to ignore the repeated baiting and the aggressive Chinese rhetoric to resolve the impasse through diplomatic channels. The reduced tension also paves the way for Prime Minister Modi to attend the BRICS summit on the 3rd of September in China. It is also expected to see presence of several non-BRIC neighbouring nations. But there are still some concerns despite a press release that Ministry of External Affairs only just issued about an hour back. There are still concerns that we are raising on Spotlight tonight that while the truce was reached by diplomatic talks, the Chinese foreign media continues to say that it's only the Indian troops that have withdrawn, and there is still no clarity on the status of that road construction by the Chinese on Bhutanese territory that started this entire skirmish. Now, as we open our phone lines, the numbers are flashing at the bottom of your screen. You can see the numbers that are flashing at the bottom of your screen. Call us. Tell us what do you think about it. This diplomatic win, is Doklam a win of maturity in diplomacy? And before I introduce our guest, let's quickly hear some sound bites on this.
印度边防部队非法越过中印西金段已定边界，进入中国洞朗地区。中方通过外交渠道多次向印方提出交涉，向国际社会说明事实真相，阐明中方严正立场和明确要求，敦促印方立即将越界边防部队撤回边界印方一侧。同时，中国军队采取有力应对措施，维护国家领土主权和合法权益。8月28日下午14点30分许，印方将越界人员和设备全部撤回边界印方一侧。
That these complex border-related issues reach a final settlement that would serve the interest not only of China and India, but also the region as a whole.
आज उसको मालूम हुआ कि नहीं, दिल्ली में भी एक सरकार है, एक ताकतवर जो है, जहां लीडरशिप है, उन्होंने बहुत थ्रेटन किया, बहुत कुछ किया, लेकिन जिस तरीके का मैं दाद देना चाहूंगा हमारे आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री, हमारे जो है हमारे रक्षा मंत्री, हमारे विदेश मंत्री और जितने भी लोग हैं जिन्होंने इसको डील किया है.
I think this is a development that is to be welcomed. It is significant, and we hope that the disengagement protocol would be carried out in a mutually satisfactory and agreed manner, because that would pave the way for Prime Minister Modi to attend the BRICS summit in China in the next few days.
All right, we've got Anil Maheshwari, a Indo-China expert, joining me in the studio, and hoping, of course, to be joined by a set of other guests as well in a short time. We've got already a first caller joining us on the broadcast. Shiv Narayan from Noida is in fact joining us. Go ahead, make your point, sir. Sir, can you hear us? Please make your point.
Okay.
Yes, please make your point, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah, good evening. This is Kumar here from Noida.
Yes, sir, go ahead, make your point.
In the past experience of China angle, we should not, take it for granted about the Chinese attitude and behavior. We should be very firm and say to China leadership that we are very clear about our borders. And India cannot be taken granted for anything and everything. This is what the view I wanted to express.
Okay, let's quickly also, we've got Nag Bhushan who's also joining us from Mumbai. Quickly, sir, if you can make your point.
Good evening, ma'am. Hello?
Yes, sir, please make your point. Good evening.
Ma'am, actually, saying the diplomatic, it is too early to tell it as a diplomatic victory for India. Because they have not agreed entirely, they have not agreed that there is a contention that they are claiming that the Doklam area and all is situated in their area, there is a part of China and all. So, it is little bit early to tell them and to have a applause on us that we had a good diplomatic win. It is little early.
Okay. Okay. We've also got Raj Kadian, former Deputy Chief of Army Staff, joining us from Gurgaon. Mr. Maheshwari, my first question is to you. You've heard the comments that are coming in that is it too early for us to actually be congratulating ourselves for our diplomatic win, or at some level do you think the Modi government should be given credit for the fact that it withstood the strident Chinese rhetoric, the incessant baiting for India to respond?
I think Modi deserves congratulations and the Modi government for the patience which they maintain. Otherwise, the 1962 war was a forgotten war for China. In India, it's a big war for us. But for China, it is just merely a forgotten war. And now we have made so much progress in the Chinese affairs. And now the question is of the unipolar world in the Asia. That China wanted to make the unipolar world in China. But India, as a strong country, with the help of the other countries in the Asia, was an impediment in the Chinese designs.
Right.
But the Chinese media exaggerated the things, and the Indian media also responded in the same vein. It should not have been done. Otherwise, this disengagement was on the cards for the last few months, but last for the few months, 2 months and a half. Our media also gone berserk and sent a signal that a war is imminent.
Right.
But I never thought that the war will be there.
Right. Okay. Let's quickly get in Lieutenant General Raj Kadian as well, sir. At the end of the day, the decision today or the announcement today for a mutual disengagement to happen. In fact, reports suggest that in the next 48 to 72 hours, demilitarization would actually begin in the entire region. So at some level, it sends out a very strong message.
First, I would like to say that one is happy that the event has ended. The entire tension of last 2.5 months has come to an end. I had always believed that we will be able to find a diplomatic solution to the problem, because war does good to no one. And especially in that small piece of territory, in the long border of nearly 4,089 square kilometers wasn't an issue between the two countries. I think Chinese wanted to test the water and see how long can India stand up to them without blinking. If you see the recent history, China has been a regional bully, particularly for the small littoral countries of the South China Sea. So they wanted to treat India also in the same vein, and as I repeat, they were trying to test how far we can go. One is happy that India's stand was very firm, diplomatically correct. We did not resort to any shrill noises or any strong rhetoric like the Chinese did. They built up all the pressure, even said that countdown has begun.
Yes.
But we did not blink.
So you would agree that it was a mature...
Point. I think this is a success of our foreign policy,
Yes.
of our defense policy. But the lesson...
Yes, I was
The
coming to
lesson
that, sir.
to be learned is that such more, we have a very long border in different states, such face-offs can occur again. We need to remain prepared, defense-wise we need to be stronger,
Absolutely.
make up all the shortcomings so that we continue maintaining a very firm stand and not compromise on any territory.
Absolutely. Let me also get in MD Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian. Sir, my question to you is that it's clearly a win as far as the Modi government's diplomatic efforts are concerned. It was a mature diplomatic stand that the government took, not responding to the incessant baiting that the Chinese were resorting to, the strident media coverage as well, and also the kind of responses that were coming in from the foreign ministry, the Chinese foreign ministry. India did not respond to that baiting, and at the end of the day, this reflects that mature diplomatic efforts.
Hello.
Fact is that you're very right. India did not respond to this Beijing.
I was in fact very surprised to see some of the tone the Chinese and some of the other comments made, especially by Global Times, which has been a more responsible publication. The other side refused to retaliate and we held our ground. We agreed formula in which our concern is that the form of the building of that road, and their concern about troops is also addressed. So it's a clear for both sides, and it speaks well for the majority of both countries, and it's well for future cooperation in the state of Modi and Xi.
All right, let's quickly get in Arvind, who's joining us from Kerala on the phone line. Arvind, please make your point.
I just want to ask your panelists one question. How much can we believe China that they will not stab in our back once our Prime Minister comes back from the BRICS?
All right, okay. Can China be taken on face value? Let's take that question across to Kaval Sibal, former Foreign Secretary, joining us on the panel. Good evening, sir. My question to you, as the caller was also asking, that can China be taken on face value?
In what respect?
In this respect, that, you know, the fact that
in what context they can be taken as face value? In
this particular context, that, you know, there has been an agreement as far as mutual agreement for disengagement, but there is still no long-term solution that seems to have been found out. There is still lack of clarity as far as the status of the road construction that the Chinese party had started. So all those areas continue to remain a concern.
No. I don't think there's any problem. No. I don't think there's any confusion about that, because clearly China cannot build that road. You know, we are just about 150 meters away from where the Chinese try to build the road. And if they do not withdraw their heavy equipment, road building equipment, and start building the road, it will take us only 15 minutes to come back to the positions that we have withdrawn from. So the agreement with China has to be on the basis that there will be no more road construction, and both sides will disengage. I don't think there's any ambiguity in that. China, of course, has reason to try and obfuscate this, because they raised the pitch so high, right, and they threatened India with military reprisals, and right, they used very aggressive diplomatic language, that for them now to actually admit that they have accepted Sushma Swaraj's statement in Parliament that the only solution is the restoration of the status quo ante would be a huge loss of face.
So it was a climb down of sorts.
Therefore, they are trying to be ambiguous about this, but it's quite clear,
right,
that.
So I was asking that it's a climb down of sorts as far as the Chinese is concerned. As you were saying, they raised the pitch so high, and now.
Well, obviously, it is a climb down, because they had climbed so high. They had climbed so high, and they couldn't sustain that position. So therefore, it is inevitably a climb down. But I think we should be more mature about it. We were very mature in terms of not responding to China's bullying tactics and retaining our cool and calm, and being very moderate in our reactions. And we should follow the same posture now, where there is no need for us to crow that we have won and China has clamped down. The fact is that everybody understands what has happened, and we should leave it at that. And the signals will be understood by everyone, including our neighbors and China too, that India is very firm when it comes to certain kinds of encroachments that China wants to make, which seriously impair our security interests. Now, insofar as they say they will continue to do patrolling, but that's not an issue, because they're also patrolling in the disputed areas between India and China. And there are established protocols to deal with this situation. So if they continue their patrolling there, this is something that they have been doing in the past and will be a continuation of that. But the important thing was not to build the road. That was the core issue. That is why we intervened. So if they don't build the road, then the matter is over for the time being.
Right. Let me take that to Professor Nalapat. Sir, this also sends out a message to India's neighbors as far as, this entire issue is concerned, as Kamal Sibal was pointing out.
Well, the fact is that it's a question of simple mathematics. And in simple mathematics, India is definitely by far a major power. It's on its way to becoming the third biggest economy in the world in about 15 years' time, by any metric. So this is simple mathematics, and it's for people who are realistic to understand that. And it's good, as Mr. Sibal was hinting, that the Chinese have accepted that India is a major power and cannot be put in the same basket as, for example, Pakistan. You cannot equate India with Pakistan. India stands on its own. Like, for example, Russia stands on its own. The fact is, it's a win-win on both sides. And it speaks for the maturity of China also, that they have agreed to this kind of a discussion. After initially saying they will not have any talks until Indian side withdraws, they clearly have been several rounds of talks, and there has clearly been a disengagement agreement in which, as has correctly been pointed out, that road construction has been stopped. That road is of no value to China unless it wants to go to war with India. And I am sure that the leadership of China will not want to go to war with India for the simple reason that economically and in every other way, China has much more to gain from India.
Absolutely.
And it has a lot to lose by going to war.
Of course. Let's quickly get in a caller from Bangalore, Shiv Kumar, who has a point to make. Go ahead, Shiv Kumar. Evening. Make a point.
Hello. Actually, I would like to say that it is India's luck to have a Prime Minister like Modi. I wonder whether we'll be having a Prime Minister in future like this. And I would also request our Prime Minister to make our army very highly advanced, and all the technology, sophisticated weapons should be there so that we could face any country in the world, and we should be a superpower in terms of warfare also.
All right, let's quickly take that point to Anil Maheshwari. And then I'll also get a response from Mr. Sibal as well. Anil Maheshwari, you heard what the caller said, that at the end of the day, the credit for this should go to Prime Minister Modi.
Yeah, of course, I also mentioned that the credit goes to the Prime Minister Modi, but at the same time, there are some unsung heroes in any project. We have two unsung heroes as far as my knowledge is concerned. They are the Shiv Shankar Menon and the Jay Shankar, the present Foreign Affairs Secretary. They are the Chinese expert. They know the psyche of the China. Unlike 1962 when we were caught unaware, for this time we had fully prepared Foreign Affairs team as well as our army. So I want to congratulate these two fellows and the Foreign Affairs team, including Mr. Sibal, who also did a lot of job for the Sino-India good affairs.
Okay, Mr. Sibal, I'll just add one more question to it before I get your response. The question is, this also paves the way for the BRICS summit, which starts on the 3rd of September. Now that there has been a resolution to this long-standing, this dispute, this standoff on the border, one can expect a successful BRICS summit as well. Okay, let's quickly get in Matthew from Bangalore before I get Kamal Sibal. Matthew from Bangalore.
Yeah, very good evening. I think this is not time to celebrate as such, because it was good that we were holding fort. That has made them to think twice from the Chinese side, but we know how cunning they are right from the start. So it is just, they have just stayed back to just rearrange their strategy against India. And as long as they keep supporting the terrorists and outfits in Pakistan and they support Pakistan, we cannot go back and say that, everything is fine.
Okay.
So,
okay,
yeah.
let's get in Raj Kadian to respond to that. Lieutenant General Raj Kadian, respond to that there are still enough and more thorny issues between India and China. One, of course, is the fact that it continues to shield Pak terrorists at UN. There is also the fact that it blocks India's bid for nuclear suppliers group. And then, of course, there is interference in Nepal and Sri Lanka.
See, India has been trying to surround India. China has been trying to surround India from all sides. They are also making efforts to improve relations with Bangladesh, with Sri Lanka, and even with Maldives. Bhutan was the only country that was totally with us so far, and one is happy to say that India has stood by their request that we should stop that road construction. The road construction, if you see the reality, building a road into a small plateau which doesn't lead anywhere else, obviously had a defense connotation. And India cannot afford to let that happen because of our own security concerns. We are just 123 kilometers down south are that land corridor where our entire rail and road communication pass with the northeastern state.
Right.
That having been said, China, when they make a statement that they will continue to patrol that area, that is a kind of face saving that they need. We should let them have that latitude.
Right.
It is not diplomatically wise to rub the salt in their wound that they have backed down, which actually they have. Patrolling is an activity. I have commanded a brigade in that Doklam area. I know patrolling continues from both sides. So that is not the question. Question was there building the road which was objectionable. India has acted correctly, and we should now underplay the part diplomatically. It is wise, and not to highlight that China has backed down or we have scored a victory. It is a diplomatic success on both sides. We should leave it at that.
Okay. Before I go across to another caller from Noida, let me just quickly get in a word from Professor Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, one cannot miss the timing of this entire issue. Also, it comes, just a fortnight, actually less than that, before the BRICS summit, which starts on the 3rd of September. End of this week is when the BRICS summit is scheduled in China, and one cannot miss the timing of this.
I'd like to agree with Mr. Maheshwari when he says that Jaishankar, Foreign Secretary, was very much in the picture advising Prime Minister Modi. The important thing is, frankly, that we have a Prime Minister who, as you correctly said, stood firm and at the right point knew where to make an adjustment in favor of India's long-term interests. Because it is in favor of India's long-term interests not to have a conflict, as it is in favor of China's long-term interests.
Right.
I have been optimistic about this precisely because both China and India have strong, far-sighted leaders, Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi. And it's my hope that this summit of the BRICS will see these two leaders having an exhaustive talk with each other in which they can not only make their relations better, but also improve the situation regionally.
Right. Okay, we've got that caller from Vineet from Noida. Vineet, 10 seconds, sir. Please make your point very, very quickly.
Very quickly. Thank you. I just got off BBC, and what you tell us and what BBC tells us is very different. BBC tells us that China maintained a belligerent stand and India backed off. So what I'm seeing on NewsX and what I'm seeing on BBC are two different stories, and I would love to know which is the right one.
Okay, let me take that question across to Kanwal Sibal. Kanwal Sibal, a caller just pointed out that as far as the narrative in global media is concerned, is very different from the narrative that we're talking about here. The narrative in global media, it looks like that it is India that has backed down, given the Chinese foreign media's statement, completely contrary to the facts. The facts are that there is a mutual disengagement that's happening.
Well, you see, the BBC probably is being, their correspondent in Beijing is being fed the Chinese line. BBC is purveying that line because all these international television companies and reporters, they are so afraid of saying something which would embarrass the Chinese because they feel that their presence in that country would get complicated and they may actually even face expulsion. The Chinese are very brutal in this regard. So therefore, let's not believe what the BBC says, because the BBC is...
of course, that's not what I meant. I did not mean it as a BBC sort of a...
propaganda.
I did not mean it as a BBC versus NewsX, but what I meant largely was the narrative that Chinese are feeding globally as a face saver, given the situation.
No, I didn't quite catch your point. What are the Chinese trying to do?
So the Chinese have made the point that it's actually the Indian troops that have withdrawn, and that is how the status quo has been maintained. That is exactly what caller was also pointing out, that that's the narrative in global media that Chinese are feeding.
No. This is look.
Contrary to facts.
Look. Let's not be carried away by China's false narratives. I mean, all this while we were building up this crisis and issuing ultimatums to us, that was based on lies and misinformation and a totally false narrative and a totally contradictory position. I'll not go into that. Now, if they want to continue a false narrative, let them do it. If they want to save their face, let them do it. But the fact is that we have very clearly said that there has been a mutual agreement on withdrawal, and this is being effected on the ground. And the Chinese have not talked about going on and constructing the road. They have merely said that they will continue to patrol.
Absolutely.
This is fine.
Yes.
They can say that, and they have been doing it in the past. And we have not objected because this is a Bhutanese territory. It's only when they started building a road, which posed a direct threat to our security,
absolutely,
that we
sir.
intervened.
Absolutely, sir. We leave it there. It's a huge diplomatic win for the Modi government, a climb down of sorts for the Chinese. Mutual disengagement taking place at Doklam. Standoff after 2.5 months to end paves the way for Prime Minister Modi's visit to the BRICS summit on the 3rd of September. We've come to an end of this edition of Spotlight with me, Gauri Dwivedi. Thanks so much for watching, and many thanks to all my panelists who joined this evening.
Thank you.